Hello, everyone. You're listening to Michelle Speaks on 180radionow.com, currently heard in over 128 countries around the world, and I'm your host, Michelle Portier, founder of Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida. We live in a society that condones living behind masks, hiding who we are and the issues we face, some too taboo to discuss with anyone. You may be worried about being judged or ashamed of what others may be thinking of you. Michelle Speaks not only uncovers it, but we look for solutions to deal with it head on. Stay tuned as we get to the heart of the matter, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to your fastest growing talk show on radio, Michelle Speaks, with yours truly as your host, me, Michelle Portier. You know that on this show, no topic is taboo, so we pull the covers off of everything that is hindering you from healing and growing, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. This evening, we're going to be wrapping up the series on military sexual trauma. Military sexual trauma is a topic that is taboo, especially for those that are in the military, have served in the military, are affiliated with the military. And so we are just going to wrap up what we have talked about this month. The theme this month has been military sexual trauma. So first of all, why did we address this topic and why was it so important? Number one was to provide a platform to give survivors a voice, to give them a voice to be able to share their concerns, to share their disappointments, to share how they have learned to cope, whether positively or negatively, and how their lives are now as a result of their encounters. What is our goal? Our goal, number one, is to raise the awareness of how it's affecting the lives of not just the survivors, but those that the survivors love, those that they encounter in their day-to-day activities, such as the workplace, in social environments, in church. Just how they are impacted, but not also how they are impacted, but how those that love them and that encounter them on a daily basis are impacted, and may not know why. They just may know that, hey, today Michelle is not Michelle, she's Mickey. So why is that?
Why is her head on backwards?
Right.
Wait a minute. Right. Did she just turn her head 360 degrees? What the?
And this is a serious topic, but
it is. But we have to laugh sometimes to keep from crying.
Exactly. And you have to find the silver lining in everything. And so that's what a lot of our survivors that I've had the pleasure of having on the show have talked about. They've talked about the hurt, the pain, the darkness, the horrific event itself, but they've also talked about how they are learning to cope and learning to heal, because as I've stated before, and I will continue to state, healing is not a destination. Healing is a journey. That's
a powerful statement.
Yeah.
You said that, the first time I heard you say that to me was, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And it was kind of like squirrel. You just stopped in your tracks and you were like, what? That was profound.
Yes.
And I think that should be a t-shirt.
It may be.
It should be a bumper sticker.
Be on the look. I don't know about the bumper sticker, but it may be a t-shirt.
You need
to
trademark that.
Right.
But wow, that is powerful. Say that again, please.
Healing is not a destination. Healing is a journey. And it's not just related to military sexual trauma, but anything.
Right.
Whatever kind of hurt or trauma or abuse or whatever you've encountered, healing is a journey. It is not a destination. It ebbs and flows. There's peaks and valleys.
Right.
There's good days and months and weeks,
right.
And then there's horrible days and months and weeks. And so, it's a journey. And so as far as this particular topic, the military sexual trauma, it was enlightening, it was inspiring, it was also painful, because anytime you're talking about trauma, if you've experienced trauma, especially what we were talking about, having to revisit that yourself can often be painful, and it can you can be triggered.
you've broached this subject now for the entire month of March. You've had 4 outstanding souls to come into the studio and literally bare their soul.
Yeah.
And not just here in the studio, but for thousands of people to listen to this broadcast. And the one thing that I saw that was common amongst all of them, and none of these folks know each other, but the one thread that I saw that was woven across all of them is the fact that this is a life-altering event that has so many different far-reaching complications that arise from it. And everybody is still going through their journey.
Right.
24 years later. And for some, they're still going through it. And you get some folk, they're like, okay, I got it. It happened like forever ago. Let it go. It does not work like that. This isn't an argument that you have with your best friend.
It really does not. There are different stages of recovery. And for each individual, what that recovery looks like is different.
Okay.
And yes, it is life altering, as you stated earlier, because your life will never, ever be the same again. You may find different ways to cope, both positive and negative. But your life is forever altered. I mean, you change the way that you think, you change the way that you react, you respond, you change the way that...
You change the way you feel about people, even folk that you know, family.
Because it's not just an act against your physical body, it's an act against your soul. It penetrates your soul and it penetrates your spirit. And that is forever altered.
That's... People that have survived MST understand what it means when you are... There's a difference between being emotionally challenged and emotionally debilitated. There's a world of difference. And for people that have never been violated before, have never been hurt before, have not had their psyche almost destroyed, they don't understand what that means.
Right. And in some instances, just being real, your psyche is destroyed because honestly, speaking plainly, everybody doesn't survive their battle with military sexual trauma.
True.
Every woman, and I'm sure there are many more men that have been affected, but men don't talk about stuff like that.
Right.
So we have some women that are no longer with us on this earth because they succumbed to that battle with military sexual trauma. And so that's why it was so important to bring this topic to life, because there are many organizations and resources that say that they're addressing it, that are attempting to addressing it, but they're just barely scratching the surface, or they're not able to handle what is being shared or disclosed, so they don't.
But not dealing with it makes it worse.
Exactly.
If you take in the instance of Miss Chandra Roberts,
right?
She didn't deal with it, and what happened was she wound up having a stroke over it.
Right.
That's
what happened physically. She had a stroke.
But you're carrying around feelings that aren't deserved. You're carrying around guilt. What do you mean feeling guilty about? What? You didn't do anything.
Because, you always think about, what could I have done different?
Okay.
What made him choose me?
Right.
Was it the way that I carried myself? Was it the way that I walked? Was it what I had on? You carry that guilt. And then, depending on the perpetrator, you don't know what they may have said to them or spoken to them. So then that's another layer of guilt.
Right. I got you. I'll tell you the thing. I think probably the most poignant observation that I could have made out of listening to the 4 guests that came to the studio this still, it grabs me. It literally, it arrests me, and I'm floored at just how the raw courage and strength that it takes to do this, to continue to stay with the same company whose employees, your fellow employees, have literally ripped out a piece of your life and you can't get it back, but you're still there because you're duty bound. This is what patriotism is to me. This is patriotism. This is what a hero is to me. When you look at people like Miss Roberts, who's still, I mean, and not just Miss Roberts, all active duty personnel, men, women that have gone through military sexual trauma, and they've stayed. They didn't run away. They didn't allow the experience to chase them away. They didn't allow the injustice that they faced as a victim to run them away from their duty to serve their country.
And we commend them for that. But I do just want to share that not everybody has the fortitude to do that.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
So we commend the ones that are strong enough to be able to do that.
That's true.
And part of that may be because they joined the service for a reason. Of course, to serve their country. But many are looking for a better way of life, better opportunities. And they may not have anything to go back to. Okay.
I got you, and I'm not throwing shade.
I know.
You know, on MST survivors that have left the military because there was just nowhere for them emotionally to go. Right. So they had to go, and I get that. It's kind of like being, not that they're on the same plane, but if you're in a bad marriage or a bad relationship, and this is all you know, but you know you got to get out. Right. So you leave, not knowing what else to do, but you go. It's just amazing to me, just how much evidence and proof that you can present for your case and still not have justice served, and look you in the eye and tell you you're not going to get any justice on this. That just blows my mind.
And justice might not have been served in the way that we desire. Right. But eventually justice is served. You may not ever see it, but it is served. In that instance with our guest Shonda Roberts, she chose the way of forgiveness.
Yes, she did. Never underestimate the power of forgiveness, ever.
But what she also stated in a conversation that we had later was that she had the opportunity years later to run into a few of the individuals, and they looked horrible. So the effects of having to carry that, knowing that you forever altered the life of another individual, right, and then had them go through the process of trying to achieve justice, and seeing how it affected them, and feeling that you walked away scot-free.
I got you.
Carrying that guilt. I mean, Shonda is in a place where she is not just surviving anymore. She's thriving.
Yeah, she's free.
She's free.
She's free, but there are so many people that are not there.
Right.
And some don't even make it that far.
And there are some that are still on the journey of attempting to be free.
So let me ask you this. So you've been on this subject now for 4 weeks. We started out with a conversation with just you and I. Right. And we're closing the series out with a conversation with you and I. Right. What kind of feedback have you received from people that may have been listening to the show, or even people that you've encountered, through social media or just in conversation, that have been privy to these conversations over the last month?
In conversations and emails via social media, the resounding feedback that I've gotten, especially from other survivors, is thank you. Thank you for creating a platform to raise the awareness of this topic. Thank you for creating a platform to allow a voice for survivors. I've had organizations reach out to me that are not here locally. Okay. Wanting to provide opportunities for other survivors to share their voice. So that is the resounding feedback that I've gotten. Other feedback that I've gotten, I wasn't aware. So many aren't aware, not just of military sexual trauma, but the effects, the long-term effects of it, and how it's impacting others.
I'm gonna ask this question because,
and many don't want to be aware.
Okay, all right. Do you fault folk for not knowing about how crippling this MST is? I mean, this is serious. I mean, you know about people being stabbed, killed, blown up. There's violence all over the world. So violence is not strange to us as a human culture. But do you find that the fact that people just seem to be completely clueless to what MST is? Do you hold people accountable for being able? Should they know about it?
I don't find fault in them not knowing. By providing this platform, it's also a way to hold them accountable, because once you know, you can't undo that. So now that you know, what are you going to do about it?
Good point.
Because it's affecting you directly or indirectly. Because everybody has somebody that's been affiliated with the military in some way, shape, form, or another. So will it cause you to be more aware of your friends and family members that are serving?
Gotcha. Maybe
they went in one way and they came back and they're different, and you just can't pinpoint why.
So you got the silent thank you for speaking up for me.
Right.
What other takeaways do you think people got out of these very horribly private conversations that they've just worked up the courage to make public?
That more needs to be done to not just raise the awareness, but provide reliable resources, consistent resources.
Okay, is it more of it that it's more needs to be done, or there's not enough being done?
There's not enough being done. I mean,
okay.
either way you want to phrase it.
All right.
There's not enough being done. More needs to be done. It's the same thing.
I think one is more powerful than the other.
Right.
I think the fact that not enough is being done speaks volumes to the number of, just to the sheer amount of survivors that are just literally doing that, just surviving. They're not victorious over this. They're still coping with it. And that's a segue into what I want to talk to you about. So you started this off talking about your experience with military sexual trauma.
Right.
And I work with you on a regular basis, and I'm still learning things about you that just, it's surprising to know that just some of the smaller quips about your personality are a direct result of what happened to your psyche as a result of that trauma. Right. And I mean, that's amazing to me. I mean, just something you think it's like obvious stuff, people with the right eye twitching, when they're talking to you, or their neck,
It's not always that. Yeah.
No, but it's things that that are not so obvious.
Right. Because you said it, your psyche has changed. Your perspective, your outlook on life has changed in people, because the world is no longer a safe place.
Wow.
There's a threat potentially in every encounter,
in
around
every person,
corner.
every handshake, every smile. You're like, okay, what do they want?
Potentially, that's a threat.
But living like that,
it's exhausting.
It is. I mean, and mentally, it's got to be, because you're wondering, okay, I don't know what this person may do to me, so now I have to work a little extra harder just to maintain my wall. And it's not even a wall at that point. You're not even thinking a wall. It's just the way you operate.
Right. And I'm gonna tell you this: what makes it even more impactful, because you get guarded like that because you served your country alongside your fellow service members. Who are supposed to be protecting you, as together you protect our country. But the person that was supposed to be protecting you, that you're supposed to feel safe with and around, is the person that violated you. So if that can happen with that person, then anybody else you encounter, no matter what they present, what could they turn into at any moment? So that's what you live with on a daily basis. And then you have the mental self-talk trying to talk yourself out of, well, everybody is not a threat.
Right.
But then maybe they say something that triggers you and causes you to go back to the original incident.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they wear a particular scent that causes you to trigger you. Or maybe they even favor that person, a mannerism.
That'll make it jump.
Right.
And they ain't talking about crisscross jump.
Exactly.
This will make it jump.
And so you're constantly on guard looking out for that. When you're out in public, if you go in a restaurant or anywhere, wherever you go, you're going to make sure that you sit with your back against the wall so that you can see everything.
I got you.
Because you're on guard.
Okay.
Even when you go home, you may go back and check and recheck and triple check to make sure the windows are locked, the doors are secure.
You go into the same room 4 times in a row, knowing you already checked the locks,
Exactly.
the lights out. You put stuff like in certain position on the table, then go back and make sure to see if it moved.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not funny, haha. It's not even funny. What it is, it's amazing. It's astonishing to me that this is how survivors live.
Right. You startle easily.
Yeah.
You sleep with a firearm or other weapon. Because you don't know.
You don't have yours in your purse right now, do you?
I don't know.
No,
mine is at home.
We have weapons regulations in this building.
No, mine is at home. But those are just some of the ways that we've learned to adapt. Okay. Because that memory is still there in our bodies. And yes, there are different therapies and options and treatment options available.
Okay.
But not all options work for everybody. And they may work for a period of time. But what about those that have not just had one occurrence? It's been compounded. Mm-hmm. And so what used to work will no longer work.
Right. It's kind of it's almost like building up a tolerance to a drug,
right,
or a vaccine. Right. Wow. So in that case, what happens when you run it? What happens as an MST survivor? You're now seeking care. What happens when the treatment that used to work for the last 6 months, now you've plateaued out and you hit this wall, and what used to work doesn't work anymore? Well, now what? You
start the journey to trying to find another option that does
all over
work.
again.
All over again. And let me tell you this. Just because someone has the title of clinician and is supposed to be there to help you find ways to cope with your trauma doesn't mean that they can successfully do that job. Okay. Because this is the thing. Everybody cannot handle your experiences. When you get to the point that you are ready to disclose, or you have to disclose just to get it out, because we hold trauma in our body. Sure. And if you get to that point and you're ready and willing to disclose and you just want to get it all out, and you share with somebody and you realize that they weren't ready,
they're not prepared, they can't
handle that, then what do you do?
Quick.
Especially if they're wearing that title of clinician. And I say that, I'll give you an example. There was a veteran that was ready to start the journey to healing. She went to receive care in the VA. She was assigned a clinician. They'd had several sessions, and on one session, she was given the assignment to write an impact statement and write a narrative. Okay. She completed that assignment, gave it to the clinician. The clinician's response was, well, you're an accomplished writer. You know how to write well. You know how to evoke emotions. I believe you're further along in your journey than you want to let on. So because this person was able to articulate it, you made me cry. Wow. So she attacked her, basically, verbally, when that individual was in a broken place. Not everybody can handle this stuff. Exactly. Okay. So what we're going to talk about, because you made some interesting notes, drawing on personal experience and also others' experience. Exactly. As you help other people go through this journey. Right.
what resources? I mean, because the VA can only do but so much. I mean, we're looking in the news right now, and President Trump made his personal physician the head of the VA.
No.
Okay. He fired, was it Schumann, Schultz, whatever his name is, that had the job.
David Schultz.
And he got rid of him. And now instead of, so what he does is he puts a doctor in charge of the VA, but he's a personal physician. He's never ran a hospital before, had never ran a clinic. He's prescribed medication.
I would say the VA is in trouble, serious trouble.
So now I want to ask a serious question. For anybody out here that's listening to this broadcast, Michelle, what advice would you give to someone that needs help now and they don't want to go to the VA because the VA is in complete disarray right now? And so they can't trust, they don't know whether they can trust the help that they get. You just gave a perfect example of an individual who was a clinician but couldn't really understand or fathom the damage that this individual had gone through. And because she was able to articulate it in writing, oh, well, you're not that bad off because you can actually talk about what's going on with you. So, you'll be okay. Okay.
So
what hope is there for folk?
There's always hope, even when we seem hopeless. But what I would say to that individual or individuals that are in that place where they need help now, first of all, we have to identify what stage are you in.
Okay.
And I would label that the emergency stage. And that's a stage where many go through a stage where it's all that they think about. Okay.
When you say the emergency stage, what manifests that you would classify that as an emergency stage? What kinds of things would they actually be doing or thinking or encountering?
Your life is full of crises. Every day,
okay,
there's a crisis.
Okay.
You're trying to put out fires.
I got you.
Every day, you're crying at the drop of a hat, the drop of a pen.
Okay.
The least thing sets you off.
You can't focus on anything for more than...
Inability to focus.
Okay.
You're angry. Actually, you're full of rage at everything and everybody, and you don't know why.
Okay.
You're unable to function.
All right.
You may not be able to study if you're trying to go to school. You may not be able to go to work. You may not be able to take care of your children or your spouse. You're just unable to function. You're unable to sleep.
So, are there resources that survivors of MST can put their hands on, aside from the VA? Are there resources that they can actually put their hands on and get that emergency help? Because if somebody's living in a crisis to crisis life, it's just a matter of time before something breaks.
Before it implodes.
Right.
Well, of course, there's the hotline, the VA Veteran Crisis Hotline. Here locally in Jacksonville, there are several organizations that are targeting specifically women that are battling with that, among other things. One of our guests, actually the founder who on our program disclosed for the first time after many, many years that she was also a survivor.
You talking about DeQuarenta?
DeQuarenta, the Northeast Florida Women's Veterans Association.
Right.
That is a resource. And it's not just a resource. It is a valid, it is a vetted, it is a reliable resource. Because there's a difference between providing resources and those that are vetted, that are reliable.
Okay.
There's Zahara's network located in Clay County. There is a project called Project Odyssey by Wounded Warrior Program.
Okay.
So there are some organizations and resources out here, but finding them, connecting the dots is the challenge, especially if you're in a state of crisis. There's Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Let me ask you this. If someone is in an emergency mode, they're in an emergency crisis mode, are there things that they can do as an individual on their own until they get the help that they need to sort of at least manage it to a point where they don't go over a cliff, where they don't implode?
First and foremost, I would just have them to remember that you're in an emergency state. So It will come to an end. It's a matter of just getting them to realize, to stop the cycle that's going on in their mind.
Okay.
Because it's like when you're reliving a trauma, it's like a movie reel inside your head that's going nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
So doing something to kind of break that cycle. So most MST survivors have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that you can do with that when you're in a cycle,
Okay.
is to ground yourself, because you're there, but you're not there in the present. Your body is there, but your mind is back in that moment.
So you need something to snap you back into reality.
Right. And one of the ways that you can do that if nobody is around is if you can, is just to kind of touch yourself, grab yourself, grab a hold of something, and that will kind of snap you out of it.
Okay.
One of the things I want to put into the minds of our listeners, don't attempt to hurt yourself.
Yeah,
or kill yourself.
Yeah, there's cutting and oh my gosh.
There's so many things that you can do to try to numb that feeling, to stop that. Mm-hmm. You can drink, yes. But when you come out of
that's
that
what leads to the addictions.
Right. But when you come out of that drunken stupor, it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
And you can only drink but so much.
Exactly. And then you may kill yourself from alcohol poisoning.
Exactly. Wow. Okay.
So remind yourself that you're not going crazy, because a lot of times you may feel like, I'm crazy. I can't get this thought process.
You feel
stop.
stuck. You feel stuck, and you feel like something's broken, and something in my head is broken. I can't.
Well, something is broken because, when you encounter trauma, it changes the process of how you think. Mm-hmm. So there's a chemical change that takes place within your mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, no, you're not crazy. No.
I look at the mirror and I wonder. Some days I wonder.
Again, find somebody that you can talk to. No matter what, there has to be one person that you can go to and reach out to. And you may not want to, you may not feel like it. Mm-hmm. Do it anyway. Push through. Because there is an innate inner resiliency in every one of us that no matter how badly we think we want to end our lives, we want to live. We just want to know that somebody cares enough to pay attention to the signals that we're sending.
I got you.
So,
wow.
Create a list of at least 3 people by order of importance that you can reach out to that will hold you accountable. That you can call any time of the day or night, no questions asked. Hey, I needed to hear a voice. I needed to make a connection.
Gotcha. I
need you to help me through this process.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to talk about the details, but I need a human connection.
What about, and this is just something that I thought about even after the domestic abuse that I went through in my previous marriage. I found it helpful to surround myself with things that made me feel comfortable, made me feel safe.
Such as?
Okay. I'm a big sci-fi fan. Mm-hmm. So I like stuff from like Ray Bradbury books, Star Wars, Star Trek. So I surround myself with like little things like books or comic books or magazines, things that actually transport my mind somewhere else.
And that
or at least out of where I'm at,
and
where I don't
want to be. And that's good to do that as long as it doesn't become
a crutch.
Yes.
Gotcha.
If that's something something that you can reach out into to do to stop that thought process, but if it becomes a way of escaping the day-to-day realities,
not good.
Not good.
Okay.
So there's balance, finding that balance.
Okay. Well, what would you suggest? Okay, so you should have a list, even if it's just a small list of people that you can depend upon.
Right.
That will help ground you. Like you say, I just needed to hear your voice.
Right.
And make sure I'm not losing my mind.
Right.
Okay. What else could people do? And aren't these are like coping mechanisms, or is this kind of like, pull the string in case of emergency?
Actually, they can be both interchangeably.
Okay.
It just depends on where you're at, because again, there's peaks and there's valleys.
Okay.
There may be a period of time where you're good, and then you get triggered. and then you're right back to ground zero.
I got you.
And then there may be times where that's all you think about.
But that bottle of Jim Beam cannot be your break
Exactly.
glass in case of emergency.
So one of the most important things I would say is to drop any responsibilities that aren't essential. If you're in a position where you don't have to go to work, don't go to work. Find things that are pleasurable for you to do. Get out in nature, go for a walk, exercise, but don't do it to the extreme, because anything in excess, of course, is not good.
Okay.
Get out of a dangerous or an abusive situation. So say you've encountered that and you get into a relationship thinking that's going to provide you safety and security, and you find that it's not, it's an abusive situation. Get out of that.
Let me ask you something. There, some people, and actually, and I'm kind of guilty of it, but some people will actually do things and find things to occupy all of their time, so that they're so busy they don't have time to think about the trauma that keeps trying to drag them down into that
and that's
that movie that keeps playing over and over and over and over again.
And that's good for a while, but that goes back to something that I mentioned before in one of my previous presentations. You suppress to survive. But as we know, you can only suppress things for so long before it's going to manifest.
I got you. You're not even really covering it up. All you're doing, like you said, you're just literally just pushing it down. You're pushing it down. You're running from it. You're not even dealing with it. And literally, you're trying to shift a focus away from that
and if you
to
hide
something
it, you
else.
can't heal it. What we need to understand is that we cannot run from pain. We cannot run from life, because pain is a part of life. So you can't run from it. You have to learn that you cannot run from it.
Okay.
And that's easier said than done.
Yeah. Yep.
Find and talk to people that are further along in their healing than you are.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So finding someone that can relate.
I got you.
Which is exactly what these support groups are supposed to be about. But support groups that will allow you to go through the process if that's what you need to do to heal.
All right.
So find a support group.
Don't start your own. That's not a good idea.
Right.
We call that a pity party. Right. Don't start your own support group.
Right. Write it down, because writing is a release of toxins from your body.
You know what? That's interesting. My wife is a journal nut. She believes that, and not only she believes, she knows that because of her chronicling a lot of the things that have happened in her past, it has allowed her to channel that out of her mind and out of her spirit into paper. And then now what happens is it's kind of like it's not in my head anymore. I've gotten off my chest. Now I've got it documented somewhere else. And then whenever at some point in time you can kind of go back and look at it. Yeah.
Now other ways of coping as well is art therapy. The number one thing that I would recommend is don't try to do it alone.
Okay. All right.
At least one person, if nobody else, needs to know about your pain and your healing process.
But isn't that a difficult thing to do, though, especially if you're in that mindset and you don't trust anybody?
It's difficult, yes. But again, there's an inner resiliency in each of us.
Okay.
Tap into that.
Okay. I got you.
And then as you begin to do that, it becomes easier to share, and your circle of support will grow. But start at least with that one person.
Get it off your chest.
Right.
Talk to somebody.
Right. I have an accountability partner. There's the one person that I can call anytime, day or night, when I feel that I'm spiraling or I have a trigger. Because this is the thing too. This is another way that you can identify it. If you remember the encounter, or maybe you don't, but your body remembers it, on the anniversary of that encounter, you may encounter periods where you may be more emotional, or you may be more forgetful, or you may be more sensitive to things that otherwise wouldn't bother you. You may become forgetful.
Okay.
You may find yourself going back and forth and wanting to know, well, did I do that, or did I say that? Did that take a look at your calendar and see if maybe those things that are happening are right around the time that you encountered your trauma.
Okay.
And then that will help you to understand, well, this is why I'm being extra emotional or extra sensitive or extra, these memories are coming back, because it may be the anniversary of one of the encounters.
And that sounds so simple, to think, well, you know what, it's just, just think about what day it is, but
you may not always be able to do that.
And you might not, but I mean, we live, I don't know about you. I don't get up every day and go, okay, today is the 27th. I remember what happened on the 27th, such and such and such. So I think it's interesting that you mentioned, well, you may not know why you're acting this way. You think it might be seasonal. It might be pollen. No, it's not pollen. There's something, traumatic events occur at a specific time. And then time keeps moving on, but then time circles back.
And so this is the thing. This will help you to cause you to become aware of your behavior and how you want to change.
I got you.
So in order to do that, you will have to have time where you allow yourself to sit still. Stop being busy and running so that you don't have to think about it. So allow yourself time to meditate, to sit quietly. And then in that, it'll come up. This is around the time that such and such happened. And then look at the reasons why you develop that behavior and how you cope with it.
So I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Miss Roberts when she said because it happened on her birthday.
Yes.
And she doesn't do anything on her birthday. If she does anything, she'll do it before.
Right.
The day of her actual birthday.
Right, exactly.
So, I guess find some way in your life to kind of
you find new ways to meet those needs. So okay. if a certain day or time of year is associated with something negative, find something positive to do to replace that negative memory.
Okay.
And again, it's a lot easier said than done.
Right.
And sometimes you're going to be successful with doing that, and sometimes you won't. But allow yourself to feel compassionate. Self-compassion.
What does that mean? What does self-compassion look like? I mean, how does that mean?
Not being critical, not being so self-critical, not being, well, I should be in this place, in this season, in this time of my life, but I'm not.
Okay. All right. I get it.
Because anybody, from my experience, anybody that's encountered any kind of trauma or abuse or anything like that, they become driven to excel in any and everything that they put their hands to.
So take that pain and use it as energy, drive.
And if they don't excel the way that they feel they should, then they become self-critical.
Oh, okay. I should have did this.
Right.
Why did I do this?
Right.
I got you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So avoid that.
Right. Not avoid it, just as it comes up.
Okay.
Address it.
But that's something that you have to be conscious of. Because, I mean, wouldn't it make sense? You're already living in the state of mind where you think, I did this, I caused this. So you already have that state of mind. So the natural thing to do would be to go ahead and evaluate yourself, quote unquote, evaluate yourself, and come up with all of the negative things, point out all the negative things that are happening, and then blame yourself for it.
And for every negative thing, find a positive thing to replace that.
Okay. That takes work.
And if you can't do it, again, there's got to be one person that speaks life into you. Even when you don't want to speak life into yourself, even when you may initially not even receive it when they attempt to do it. You may try to blow it off or get angry, but they keep pursuing you because they see not just the trauma, they see you beneath the trauma.
See you beneath the pain, or see you rising above the pain? Is it
either or, interchangeably?
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
So is it a good idea that, when you're not in that down mood, to probably get maybe just like some index cards and just write down some positive things about yourself?
Right.
So that when that
Shonda
time does come.
Our guest, Shonda, Miss Roberts, spoke to that.
Oh, okay.
You know, she spoke about putting Post-its and stickers around the house and things like that to remind herself because she forgets, but also affirmations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And that's something, you know, whether people admit it or not, some don't even think about it because it's become such a habit. They do. I have positive affirmations all over my home. You know, just things that are positive in beautiful tapestry and beautiful, you know. And then I have some things just posted on my mirror.
Okay.
So find what works for you and do that.
Okay. What other kind of things can people can survive? I'm interested in folk going from survivor to victor. So what other things can people do to kind of manage that process so they can get from one place to the other?
No, give yourself permission to be angry.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because you have every right to be angry, but a lot of times you suppress that.
But you don't want that anger to turn into some type of physical manifestation.
And know that it's just it's a process, just like the grieving process. There are different stages. Allow yourself to feel to go through that process.
When you put it like that, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I got you.
Develop a word to let those around you that know about your experience know when you've hit overload, when you're at tilt, when you have been triggered and you know that you can't take another thing. Develop a word.
Wow. That's almost like the exact opposite. Like, if you remember Denzel Washington, the Manchurian Candidate.
Right.
You know, you have a phrase that will set somebody off. You're talking about having a phrase that lets everybody know that you're about to jump off.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or that you're about to have a meltdown.
Okay.
And either you need to get out of that environment or change your environment, or you need them to help you.
Okay. I got you. All right.
So, you know, for those that know me, I'll just go ahead and put it out there. Those that know me know my word.
Wait. You sure you want to put that word out there?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. All right.
Yeah. My word is kryptonite.
Did y'all get that? This will be on the podcast, so you can stop it and then rewind it real quick. And if you want to make that your word, make it your word.
Right. Yes. But the one thing...
Before you do that, why kryptonite?
That's just my word. That's the
one you picked?
Right.
I thought there might have been some...
There's no significance to that. It's just a word that I picked.
I thought there was a story behind it.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No story.
All right. Okay.
No.
My bad. I'm sorry. I'm going to shut up now. Go ahead.
No. But it's important for you to understand, you know, what your triggers are and how to manage them, because there's no way to really avoid them because you never know when they're going to happen. That's why they're called triggers.
Okay.
But being able to manage them when they occur is the key. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just military sexual trauma. It's with anything. I know that this is the topic that we're talking about, but for my listening audience out there that have encountered any kind of trauma, and you know that you trigger, finding ways to manage those triggers is key.
Okay.
In a positive way, not self-destructive way. And I think we touched on what some of those self-destructive things can look like. So, what is it like to heal?
Yeah, let's get to that.
Right.
Yeah. What does that look like?
The first step in that process is really deciding in your heart to heal and understanding that your process of your beginning the journey to heal can cause you to be in serious conflict with your loved ones and those that are close to you, because their idea of what your healing should look like is going to be very different from what you actually need to heal.
Like rock climbing.
Right.
Yeah, like, you know, I'm just going to climb this 90-degree vertical face. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. Oh, and my name is Michelle Poitier. Yeah, I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out. My sis likes to climb mountains. You know what I think about when I look at you? I think about that scene with Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible when he's hanging off. You haven't seen the movie? He's hanging off the side of this mountain, and he's free climbing it bare hands, no cable, no nothing. Now, when you first told me that this was something that you did, I was like, okay, everybody's got to have a hobby, but obviously I found out that it's a lot more than that. This
it's
is
therapeutic. It's something that I need.
This was actually, but you doing something so radical was the first step in you taking your journey into being a victor.
Right. And honestly, some family members and even some friends didn't understand that. They really thought I was crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not, but I need to do this.
Right.
Because,
I got you.
Yeah. So just understand that when you begin the journey to healing, those that you expect to support you and understand may not, and that's okay.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And be prepared for it, because they will look at you and go, that doesn't even sound healthy.
Right.
You know, but what sounds healthy to them is not.
And we want to
gonna be the same.
change. We want to change what people feel or think that MST survivors look like.
Okay.
I believe a lot of the image that most associate is that they're broken. You know, they're disleveled. They're unsuccessful. You know, but that's not always the case. They can be well put together on the outside.
Like somebody else I know.
But on the inside,
Right.
depending on where they are in their healing process, they're not. And so, I know this is so, trite, but don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
What else does it look like, MST look like, and how you cope? You may have disjointed memories. You know, you may not remember things in the succession that they happen, but it's disjointed.
It's kind of similar to blackouts
Right.
with people that suffer from alcoholism.
Right.
Okay, I get it. Wow.
And so, again, the hope and the goal of allowing this platform, creating this platform to allow survivors to share, is to help them on their journey to healing, because the more that you're able to share and express your feelings and reclaim your voice, because honestly, your voice was taken, it was silenced. So that helps on the journey to healing, to be able to reclaim your voice, reclaim your life, reclaim your soul, reclaim your spirit.
Wow. I'm looking at you, Michelle. No one would think, it would be the last thought in their brain that you had gone through such trauma in your life. I mean, you make what you do look easy.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. It's a journey. And again, I will say this again. Healing is a journey, not a destination.
I got you. I'm going to trademark that.
And this is a thing that I want to share that I want to leave with my listening audience, that I want to impart. Your journey is your journey. Your journey is unique to you. Your experiences are unique to you. So don't allow others to try to minimize your experience, to try to classify your experience, to try to tell you where you are on your journey to healing, or where you should be, or where you could be.
Okay.
You and you alone are the only one that can determine that. So don't allow your pastors, your leaders, your spouse, your family. Don't allow anybody else to determine where you are.
And it's okay for you, and like you said earlier, it's okay for you to feel angry and upset, because what happened to you it should make you angry. It should make you upset. And, you feel like you just want to set the world on fire. Okay. Got it. But
channel that anger into something positive.
Right.
That's part of the reason Michelle Speaks, If You Hide It, You Can't Heal It was created. Not just to address this topic, but many topics that have detrimentally affected individuals, families, communities, that nobody wants to talk about or address. It's that elephant in the room that is destroying communities, that is destroying nations, that is destroying families, that is destroying relationships.
I think it was D. Quarenta, when she mentioned, she was talking about what the manifestations of what that looked like for her in her trauma. And I think media has a lot to do with how we as people see or try to put into something that makes sense to us how we see pain in people. You watch enough of these cop shows and they talk about rape kits, and they go into these things where people are being hurt, and how they process that. I think that for the most part, a lot of people have become kind of numb to what real pain is like. I think we've seen so much of it being manufactured in media, in magazines and in these crazy love story Harlequin type books and stuff that we see on TV, that I think there's a genuine disconnect between what the person that has not gone through any type of sexual trauma can understand about a person that's gone through sexual trauma, right, and to look at them and try to rationalize why they feel the way they do. And then maybe you shouldn't feel this way. Maybe you should. And that's when you were talking about earlier. Well, right, no, don't let anybody tell you how to feel.
Exactly.
You have a right to feel the way you feel.
It's a valid feeling. It's a feeling that only you can process.
But do something about it,
right,
though.
Right. Don't sit in it.
Right.
Don't take on that guilt.
Don't wallow in it.
Yeah. Don't take on that guilt because it would destroy you. Shonda's experience was it caused her to have a heart attack.
Can you imagine that, having that kind of stress in your... She was 22 years old.
Right.
22.
Mine was it caused me to have a heart-related condition, which was why I was released from the military. But as I began to find healthy ways to cope and to heal... and
it's not an overnight
healthier.
Process.
It is not.
This is going to take a while.
It's a minute by minute, day by day, hour by hour, second by second process. And you cannot do it alone. That is the thing.
Okay.
That is the thing I want to say to my listening audience. You cannot do it alone.
All right. This is our wrap-up episode for MST. You have talked about why it was important to you to do this series. You talked about what you were aiming for in this series. And then you covered some observations that you made from the guests that appeared. And then some of the
feedback.
The feedback that you got from other people outside of the studio.
Right.
If there were a parting word, and we won't say parting because we won't be back next week.
Right.
but
on this series.
Yeah, on this series, to end this note, what would be the last note that you would hit for our listeners on this subject?
I would say for my listening audience, for those that have encountered military sexual trauma, whether it be one encounter or many encounters, you have experienced one of the most horrific, traumatic experiences, and you have been violated in the most vile way. And it has taken from you the one thing that you thought you had over your body in your life, and that's power and control. Right. So the parting thing that I would say is, remember that it was never about the physical act itself. It was all about someone wanting to exude power and control over you. So my parting word to you would be to take back your power.
Okay.
Take back your power. Regain your voice by speaking out about it. Encourage others to join you in supporting those that have encountered it, and providing viable resources to help those that have encountered it and their family and their loved ones and those that care about them on the journey to healing. Because you aren't the only one healing as the survivor. Everyone around you that cares about you is healing and trying to learn the new you after the trauma.
And it is a new you.
Yes. And so that is my parting word. I would encourage those that are compassionate or empathetic to the cause of military sexual trauma to join forces with Healing Women, Healing Nations, to join forces with Northeast Florida Women's Veterans Association, to join forces with Zahara's network. And all of these things you can find if you Google them, Google them.
How can people get in contact with you?
You can reach out to me by email at Michelle Speaks, MichellSpeaks @gmail.com. Or you can contact me by phone at 904-370-3549. Or if you would like to join forces with us to volunteer in spreading the word, to join forces in helping us to raise funding to support these ladies that are
not just awareness.
Right.
I'll tell people all the time, salvation is free, ministry costs.
Yes. So if you would like to sow into our organization or provide sponsorship to help these ladies attend the support groups, Healing Women, Healing Nations, as well as Northeast Florida Women's Veterans do provide support groups specifically for female veterans that have encountered military sexual trauma. So sponsor a lady or two or three, sponsor, a meal. There's always opportunities to partner or collaborate to create events to raise the awareness and also raise funds for these ladies to reintegrate successfully back into the community, to reclaim their lives and reclaim their voices. So that's what I have. I want to thank you all again for listening to us as we shared about military sexual trauma. You've been listening to Michelle.
Oh, no, I want to do it. You need to
Okay.
take a break. You work so hard. This is one of the hardest working women in radio. That's all I got to say. Listen, tune in to Michelle Speaks with your host, not me, Michelle Poitier, every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of our shows are available in our podcast directory for free, 24/7. All you have to do is just go to www.180radionow.com, click on the podcast link, or you can go ahead and click on the link in the menu, or you can just do 180radionow.com/podcast. All of them take you to the same place. When you get there, you'll see a whole bunch of little logos. Click on the one that says Michelle Speaks, and that will take you to all of Michelle's previously aired shows. They will blow your mind, open your eyes, and probably change your life. Now, if you want to go ahead, you can go ahead and finish up the rest of it if you want. No? Okay. Download the 180. Well, we're not going to download the 180 Radio Now app. We're not going to do that because we don't have that anymore. Here we go. You can also listen directly on the 180radionow.com website by clicking on the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage. Also, you can listen through your web browser on every major internet radio directory. We're on iTunes Radio. We're on TuneIn. We're on Streamer. We're on Screamer Radio, radio.com. Pretty much all major internet radio directories. Tune in any one of them. Do a search for 180radionow.com, and we will be there.
And before we officially close it, I just want to say to that woman out there that may feel like she's damaged goods and she's broken and she cannot have a successful relationship. Yes, you can. It is our sincere prayer that what you've heard today has blessed you and provided you with information that you can use to help in your own situation or someone else's. Tune in again as we get to the heart of the matter, because if you hide it, you can't heal it.